Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we're counting down the top 10 characters for every single CTP in the game, all 10 minus the CTP of Veteran, and there will be particular focus for certain CTPs like Destruction, Greed, and for the first time ever, Transcendence, because they become very useful once they are reforged. I won't be focusing only on reforged CTPs, but I will highlight when we get to those CTPs that they are reforged, or that majority of the list or part of the list is considering those CTPs being reforged, because without the reforging, Greed, Destruction, etc. are just not good. They don't keep up with Rage, they don't keep up with Energy, just Judgment, so on and so forth. So we're going to jump in. I haven't updated this list since December of last year, so a lot has changed. So you got to be, ready for this. We're going to go fast here because these videos usually run long, and I don't want this one to be too long. So we're jumping in right away with the first CTP, which is Insight. And this is a support CTP, still does not have a reforging option. So by and large, the list remains the same. We've seen some new support characters come around, like Black Cat and her upgraded uniform, which is huge. And that's a paywall uniform, so you have to be a little bit careful there. But other than Black Cat and the updated uniform for Colossus, basically the only other really good candidate for an Insight we've seen in the last 3 or 4 months is Echo. And although Echo could end up being a really good PvP character on her own and a decent PvE character, the fact that you can either use her as a speed, leadership, and support, or you can switch, take the uniform off, and make her an elemental damage support and a fire damage lead actually gives her a lot of flexibility, which could make her a really attractive CTP of Insight candidate. Now, just so that we're clear, because I've had this question asked recently, when you look at these rankings, Colossus is number 1, Taskmaster is number 5, Cyclops is number 6, and then Echo is number 10. So it's kind of weird. It goes like reverse snake order. I don't know why I did it that way, but that is how I did it. So number 2 would be White Fox, number 3 would be Black Cat, number 9 would be Proxima. So hopefully that makes sense. It goes from left top to bottom, and then from right top to bottom, 1 to 5 and 6 to 10 respectively. So that is the CTP of Insight here. Up next with the next one, we have the CTP of Transcendence and Patience. Now, I'm not going to be talking at all about Patience because it does not have the reforging option, and as a base CTP, it is very weak. So my advice to you, a lot of players' advice, is do not equip these CTPs. Hoard them for now, or use them to reforge other CTPs if you're trying to go for a brilliant. However, for the first time ever, I will actually be talking about the CTP of Transcendence. This is actually a very popular CTP because you get them from hidden tickets, so it's probably the CTP that you have the most of on your roster, in your inventory, if you haven't already burned them, deleted them, using them for reforging. And so today I'm going to be talking about this CTP with this ranking of characters only for it being reforged. So after Adam Warlock and Mr. Sinister in the 1 and 2 slot, all of the other characters from Moon Girl down to Kitty Pryde, that is assuming you're just giving them a regular CTP of Transcendence. I don't recommend giving them a regular CTP of Transcendence because the way that the devs have been reworking characters, this CTP reforged actually has some value now. So basically what you can do is you can take 2 CTPs of Transcendence with which otherwise has no value on your roster, and instead of giving 1 to Kid Kaiju and 1 to Nightcrawler to make them 10-20% better, you can smash them together, make a mighty CTP of Transcendence, and you can actually have a good PvP CTP. It's not going to compete with a Mighty Authority or a Mighty Regen, but it's actually pretty good for specific characters. And those specific characters are characters like Adam Warlock and like Mr. Sinister, who have Guardbreak Immunity on their kit. We're starting to see this a lot more now. Betsy Braddock Psylocke, Mr. Sinister, Adam Warlock, and then someone recently also has I think Echo or something. A lot of characters recently, a lot more than usual, have Guardbreak Immunity on their base kit when they get a new uniform. And this is a brand new thing that actually makes this CTP a lot better, because the one weakness for this CTP, otherwise it's a great PvP, it's a pretty good PvP CTP, is that it doesn't have Guardbreak Immunity. But now you could give this to Adam Warlock. It's not going to be as good as some other CTPs that I've mentioned, but it's going to give him attack, it's going to give him ignore dodge to deal with Spider-Man faster and other high dodge and high guaranteed dodge characters. It's going to reduce the reflect damage that he takes from Emma Frost, which is huge, right? You can start to see the synergy, right? So for those of you who are free to play or low spenders, but you're trying to compete in PvP, build up these characters. If you have a few Transcendences lying around, try making some mighty Transcendences and seeing if it pans out for you, because players have actually had success with this. I'm not memeing, I'm not joking, I know, but I wanted to bring this to your attention. So Yeah, in my opinion, the ranking for this CTP, there's actually only two options: Mr. Sinister or Adam Warlock, and then from there on, I would just ignore the rest. But I wanted to give you a full list of 10, sort of, with the third slot being empty, because why? Just to sort of, you know, keep with the theme of top 10 for each CTP. So up next, we have the CTP of Greed. And for this CTP here, again, we are assuming that it is Reforged. Basically, all of these characters, all 10 of these characters, I'm assuming you're giving them a Reforged Greed. At this point in time, the way that PvP goes and how competitive it is, a regular CTP in general, like a regular authority or regular regeneration, doesn't cut it. So for PvP, it's almost assumed that you already are starting at the mighty level, the Reforged level, because you're going to get that additional bonus effect. In the case of Greed, the bonus effect is Ambush, which not only gives you it ignores some of the damage decrease that the enemy has, but it also gives you immunity to reflect. So it can be a very powerful way to counter certain characters like Silver Surfer, like Emma Frost, like Luke Cage, etc. So this list goes, you know, Adam Warlock, Sentry, Cersei, Doctor Doom, Jean Grey on the first line, and those are all pretty competitive PvP characters. And in the second line, we're getting to the lesser competitive, or sort of like the second tier, the lower tier of PvP competitive characters, but still characters that can be very strong. And some of them have pretty high burst damage, like Captain Marvel versus villains, Daredevil in general, Null when he decides to use his third skill or his fifth skill. But by and large, this is a very good CTP if you want to create sort of a glass cannon situation. So that's how you should see the CTP of Greed when it's Reforged. Your plan of attack when you're equipping a Reforged CTP of Greed is you're going to punch once and you're going to punch really hard, and then they're going to die. And if it doesn't work out that way, then you're kind of in a pickle. For re-rolling the CTP, just to give you a quick tip, you can see on the lines it says 10% recovery of max HP, and then it says increases basic damage dealt to speed universal, and then there's another line, increases damage dealt to blast in combat. Those can actually be reversed, and that will actually matter for the way that the buff cycles. So the first cycle of the Greed buff will be, in this case, speed universal, which is what you want. Most metas are universal. However, if you have it cycling to combat and blast first, you won't get a damage you won't get any damage increase at all when you're fighting against Sentry or Doctor Doom or Spider-Man and things like that. So keep in mind the differences between those two there, and that is the list for the top 10 for the CTP of Greed. Up next, we have the CTP of Refinement, the Egg. Nothing to say here because this list has not changed. Again, this CTP has promise if it will get reforged and if it will get a good reforge effect, like the CTP of Transcendence is now seeing, because more characters are coming out with Guardbreak Immunity. So like a super budget build for characters that have Guardbreak Immunity already, like Adam Warlock, Mr. Sinister, Black Dwarf, would be a Refinement. But there are much better options at this point, like even a regular Regeneration is going to be better for them. So the Guardbreak Immunity itself is not enough to make this CTP worthwhile on strong PvP characters, but maybe if it got reforged and it got some really good effect, then maybe we can consider it. But at this point, I really have nothing else to say because you can't reforge it. So it's really at the very bottom with patience as far as powerful CTPs go. Up next, we have the CTP of Judgment. Now, this is the Elemental CTP, so you're only going to see Elemental characters. In my opinion, the top 5, Mephisto, Supergiant, Rogue, Human Torch, and Scarlet Witch, has not changed. The power level of these characters may have shifted. You know, Scarlet Witch lost quite a bit of value because of Athena coming in, for example. But by and large, there actually hasn't been very many Elemental characters lately. In the last 3 or 4 updates, we've only seen 2 big-time Elemental characters. We've seen Psylocke, Betsy Braddock, and Emma Frost. That's it. All the other Elemental characters are either for PvP, in which case you don't use a Judgment, or we haven't gotten Elemental characters at all. And that remains the same for the Hawkeye update, where there's a few elements on Hawkeye's tier 3 skill, but that doesn't really count. So yeah, this list remains pretty much unchanged otherwise, except for the introduction of those 2 new characters. And that's all I really have to say about it. It's still a solid CTP, and just consider who you're going to put it on before you equip it, because they are very, very hard to get. On to another PvP CTP, Authority. Again, here we are assuming that you're going to reforge this CTP, and that is where my advice lies. However, the list is largely the same even if you don't reforge this CTP, I have to say, because it gives you that invincibility, which is why some of the characters on this list are a little bit squishier than some of the characters on the regen list, or just don't have enough HP to make the regen work for themselves. So some new additions we see here, of course, Spider-Man, Thanos, Adam Warlock, huge characters for PvP right now. Thanos is actually a lot higher on this list because I think Authority synergizes more with Thanos' kit than Regen. So if you're wondering specifically about Thanos right now, I would say go yellow over green. But that's basically how it works. And then the rest of the list sort of makes sense. We fall through the sort of older metas, Jean Grey, Silver Surfer, and Sentry. I have Gilgamesh and Cersei here kind of low. The reason being Cersei sort of loses the penetration that she needs from a destruction or the high punching power that a greed gives her. And then Gilgamesh is better served by a regen. We just don't have more strong PvP characters in the meanwhile that can take advantage of the CTP as well as these characters can. Up next, we have the CTP of Energy, one of the best PvE CTPs. And what I want to draw attention to you, or what I want to draw attention to today, is Adam Warlock in the 10th position. I added Loki to this list as well, and Emma Frost and Spider-Man, so those are all new additions. The top 3 remains largely unchanged. Sharon, Moonstone, Makari, just absolute powerhouse gods, and Captain Falcon is still amazing. But I want to bring attention to Adam Warlock in the 10th position because there actually are a lot of PvP builds. That's right, I said PvP builds that use a Mighty or a Brilliant Energy CTP on Adam Warlock with the attack defense Reforged role. And I'll actually show you what one of them looks like because I have one in my inventory waiting to give him. It's right there. It's a Brilliant with 24% all attack, all defense. And this combination of offense and defense actually serves Adam really well. And so it basically acts sort of like a greed in the sense that it makes him very high burst damagey, but then it has a bit of the added bonus effect because the greed, you need the ambush, so you can't go for all attack, all defense. But with energy, because it gives you the chain hit damage and it gives you that huge proc that just procs no matter what, it doesn't matter which typing you're fighting against, it actually covers up a lot, and it actually makes him very difficult to deal with because it's sort of a situation of kill or be killed. And Adam is kind of tanky enough on his own that he can sometimes get away with it for a few seconds, for a few more skills, and then by that point, you're kind of toast. And the really cool thing about the CTP of Energy, when you make it Mighty or Brilliant and then give it to a PvP character like Adam Warlock who can survive because he already has Guardbreak Immunity, is that now you've created an amazing two-way character like Spider-Man, etc., who you can now use in PvE and you can use in PvP. This is why we need to keep an eye on characters who get Guardbreak Immunity, because it opens up a lot of build opportunities for them. But yeah, the list is quite solid. We still have Doctor Doom, we still have Loki, but Adam Warlock is one that I wanted to really highlight. I wouldn't give him a, well, you could give him a regular energy. He'd be great for PvE, but really, if you go for a Mighty or a Brilliant, he can become a very, very scary character for you in PvP. And we're seeing that a lot now in Alliance Tournament as well, which sort of matters for like top whales, which is why I wanted to bring it to your attention. And then I believe last but not least, oh no, we have 2 more to go here, or 3 more. We have Regen up first, and again, this list remains largely unchanged with old sort of B tier metas like Molecule Man, Daredevil, and Blue Marvel, but we do see the introduction of Emma Frost just over Gilgamesh, and basically the reason why she's over Gilgamesh is because she kind of counters Gilgamesh and Luke Cage being a blast type over their combat types. So if you're going to build only one of them for PvP, I would recommend her. And then the introduction of Drax. I'm not 100% sure that Drax should be on this list, but it was the CTP that he performed best with, and he still has the opportunity to be a really good PvP character because of his insane HP lead for combat types. But as far as a standalone PvP character, he is much closer to Blue Marvel on the 10th position than he is to Sentry on the 5th position. But it's just that the regen synergizes so much with all of his HP and all of his lead that it's sort of hard to ignore. Sort of like Hulk, right? He's fallen down and he's sort of slid on the radar of PvP metas, but he does damage based on his HP. So you sort of, it's the only CTP that makes sense for Hulk, and it's kind of the same thing for Drax. So that's how it works out for the CTP of Regeneration. Generally speaking, this goes on characters that are super tanky, which almost all of these are, or characters that can really leverage the extra HP for more reflect, i.e. Emma Frost and Silver Surfer. Second to last here, we have the CTP of Rage. And Rage is perennially, and has been for a long time, an ABX PvE CTP, so for Alliance Battle Extreme. So although we still have Shang-Chi in the top spot because it's just so, it works so well with him, we now see Makari, Athena, Kingpin, Requiem, and Loki all taking up the spots after him in various orders, all thanks to how dominant they are. Basically, they're number 1 in ABX because of that. And the beautiful part is, you can take most of these characters into other PvE content like World Boss Legend, and they're still going to be amazing. Thena and Makari can do stage 20 plus of Ultron for me. Loki can do high stages plus Dispatch. Kingpin's not bad at all. So it's really sitting pretty. But I think at this point with Rage, you're really going one of two ways. You're either slapping it on any old character just to make it a hassle, carefree rotation, or you're saving them specifically for ABX metas, even if they're not as strong standalone characters like Sif or, for example, Corvus, right? Who's already been sort of replaced by Requiem, but it sort of stands to reason until it gets a reforging and we can see better, where it's going to go. This is sort of how the list pans out. I would love to recommend, Kate Bishop or Hawkeye here, but I haven't done enough testing with them yet, so we'll have to wait for later on that one. But I think this is a solid list with Ghost Rider rounding it out until you get something better like a Judgment for him with a little bit of Pierce. And so last but not least, we come to the CTP of Destruction. I said I would make this video shorter, and I think I failed. This CTP, 100%, all the characters ranked here, you have to have it reforged. So just to reiterate here, a regular CTP of Destruction at this point in time for meta accounts, if you're really trying to push the game, a regular CTP of Destruction is not going to do anything for you. It's just a regular obelisk that looks like a CTP. So you have to reforge it if you want these, bananas results. But the good thing is when you reforge Destruction, you get one of the best CTPs in the game, especially for two-way characters who can now do PvE and PvP for you. So it's absolutely fantastic. And so a lot of the characters you're looking at here, Spider-Man, Cersei, Hela, even Heimdall to a lesser extent, and even Infinity Ultron to an extent, and Captain Marvel, can now become two-way characters for you that can do PvE and PvP because of what the Destruction gives them, the penetration, the Guardbreak Immunity, and the crazy burst damage with the Strike proc. Loki is there because he leverages the Destruction for things like ABX. Moonstone is there because the Guardbreak Immunity actually helps her out a lot, although you can get the same thing from a Mighty Energy with the Beatdown proc, so keep that in mind. And then same thing sort of goes for Athena as it does for Loki, leveraging it for ABX if you don't want to run a Rage and if you want even more firepower, and same thing goes for Cable. So with that being said, that was the list of the top 10 characters for the top 10 CTPs. Hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts. CTP of veteran owners, where are you? Thanks so much for watching. Smash the like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.